24/7, 365. The fantasy season never dies. Welcome to Every Day is Draft Day. Presented by Champions Round.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of Every Day is Draft Day. I'm your host, Dan Turner. Joining me for this episode of Hot Takes and Pancakes is just Jeff Haseley. What's up, Jeff?
Dano, I am good, man. Thanks for having me on. Looks like we're doing the duo here as opposed to the trio or the quattro, maybe, because Jason's not unavailable as well. But glad to be here and glad to be talking about some hot takes.
Hot takes. Yeah, we seem to be losing a person every week. Pretty soon I'll be doing this show by myself, apparently.
That's a hot take right there.
Right? So let's just jump right into it this week. So let's let you go first this week because I always go first when Steph is here. So this time I'm passing it on to you. What's your first hot take?
Okay, so my first hot take is a hot one. Of course.
You like hot.
And we like hot. Cordarrelle Patterson is the best value at running back this year. There's my hot take. He's currently being drafted as the 29th running back off the board. Mm-hmm. Last year, he finished 10th in PPR as far as running backs are concerned. 10th, and he's the 29th running back. People think, well, what is he? He's 31 years old? Mm-hmm. But he's had 320 career carries. That's it. Just think about that for a minute. That's it. And that's like less than most running backs who have played at least like less than 2 years or so, right?
That's like a weak season.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah. So not only that, right? So he doesn't have a whole lot of wear and tear on his body, but he's on Atlanta. Atlanta doesn't really have that many playmakers. I mean, who do they have? They've got Kyle Pitts, they've got Drake London, and they've got Patterson. I mean, and that's it. That literally is it. So he's one of few playmakers on that team. Atlanta knows exactly how to use him. There's no changes in coaching, right? Mm-hmm. Arthur Smith's still there. They know how to use him. They're going to lean on him again. I just don't see how he is the running back 29 when he finished as the 10th best running back last year in PPR.
Yeah, I mean that is a hot take, but I tend to agree with you. I think no, just because like you just made such a compelling case. I mean, like you're right. He was a top 12 running back last year, and now he's going nowhere near where he should be going. And you have these guys above him in ADP where I just don't understand how you can reasonably say that they are better options. Honestly, like you have guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Elijah Mitchell and even Miles Sanders that aren't going to be as good as he is. And like you said, with the Falcons' weapons, Drake London's there, but we don't know what kind of receiver Drake London is going to be yet. He's still a rookie. So basically you have Kyle Pitts and then a bunch of question marks. Right. So I could even see, honestly, taking it a step further on if Patterson isn't like the number 2 option still there in Atlanta, at least for, the first part of the year until London gets accustomed to the speed of the NFL. So while it is a hot take, I do tend to agree with you there that Patterson is being completely overlooked, and he's someone that you can definitely grab later on in these kinds of drafts where the top guys are gone already, where you miss out on like the Kamaras and Chubbs and Swifts and Williams and whoever.
Right, and you mentioned as far as where you can draft him, I would even condone taking him a little bit higher than where he's going, just so that you can get him. You already know he's a value, so why not just make sure that you secure that and get him? If you have a pick that's kind of like at the end of a draft, like 11, 12 or 1, 2, you can take that opportunity if you have to overdraft him a little bit.
Yeah.
So that you can get him, because he's not going to make it around. I can tell you that. Patterson's my first hot take.
Absolutely. So one other thing before we move on from Patterson that I think is overlooked a little bit is the fact that in most like leagues, whether it's Sleeper or ESPN or whatever, he had dual eligibility last year as a running back and a receiver. So that's definitely something that can help going forward if you need him for that, like a flex spot or whatever. I think that that benefits him more. I mean, if you take him as just a receiver, he was a top. He was number 8 last year in receiver. If you just had him as a receiver, so he's a top option at both spots. Mm-hmm. So I mean, you can draft him either way. So I think even then, if you want to draft him strictly as a receiver or draft him, I mean, you probably draft him as a running back, obviously, because the talent pool is much more shallow with guys that can reach those heights in terms of points, but definitely. Not a benefit as well. For my hot take, I'm going to go hot as well. Start off pretty hot. I think that Zach Wilson is going to end as a QB1 this year.
So top 12.
Top 12. Yes, he'll be a top 12 QB. We all know he had a bad year last year. He only had 3 wins as a starter, but he had some flashes. He did some good things in the air and running with the ball. I mean, no one's ever going to confuse him for like a Jalen Hurts type, but he can move a little bit. He finished top 12 in both accuracy rating and deep ball completion percentage, which is important. And interestingly enough, as I was researching this, he had the 3rd most drops attributed to his offensive weapons. So if you even to clean that up a little bit, I think that it'll be helpful. I mean, they upgraded the offense considerably, both on the offensive line and at running back and at receiver for him. So, and while all those guys are rookies, I feel like, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are definitely going to be able to, make a contribution early. So I think that, he's not going to be a top option, but I think around like the 11-12 range, I can see him, reaching that this year.
So, all right, let me just ask you this question. Would you be okay with knowing that Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson kind of started to come around a little bit last year after week 11, or around a week 11 and week 12. Mm-hmm. From week 12 to week 18, Mr. Zach Wilson was the quarterback 13 in the league last year. And, that's one away from 12. So, I mean, there is potential. There is potential of this. Right? He only had 9 touchdowns last year as a whole, right? I mean, it was a stepping stone type of year. The same type of year. Remember when Carson Wentz, because I know you're an Eagles fan. Remember Carson Wentz first year was horrendous. What do you have, like 12 touchdowns, maybe 15 interceptions, something like that. But his second year, he had MVP aspirations, right? Yeah. He completely turned the corner.
Yeah.
I could potentially see Zach Wilson having maybe not necessarily an MVP type of season, but at least turning the corner and, starting to become the quarterback that we think he can because he's got that strong supporting cast. Mm-hmm. So I'm here to say, all right, yeah, I kind of agree with that. Last year, to finish the year after week 12, he was the quarterback 13, finished ahead of let's see here. Looking at this, ahead of Mac Jones, ahead of Tua, ahead of Jalen Hurts, from week 12 on. That is right. Yeah. Ahead of Ben Roethlisberger, Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo, Davis Mills. It goes on. So that surprises me a little bit. The guys just started to look that up as soon as you started talking about him, and that surprises me. That's an interesting take that he could potentially fit into that top 12. I mean, we know he's got that supporting cast now. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, of course, Elijah Moore, and don't forget Corey Davis. So,
yeah, exactly. And they brought in Uzomah from the Bengals as well at tight end. So that's definitely going to help as well. And what surprises me is looking at ADP, how like a player like Justin Fields, who I'm not really high on, is going like 7 spots higher at QB 18 in terms of ADP over Wilson. And I want Wilson 10 times over 10 over Justin Fields this year. I really don't see how Fields is so much higher than he is with the kind of weaponry that Wilson gets to throw to, as opposed to Fields, who has Mooney, Kmet, and pretty much nothing else.
Another thing I'm looking at here is Zach Wilson's rushing yards. Mm-hmm. He had 185 rushing yards last year on 29 carries, and the majority of those came week 14 and later. Mm-hmm. That's crazy, right? So if he can do that on a consistent basis and maybe have the opportunity to scramble, get some rushing yards, we know that rushing yards from quarterbacks usually yields good things, fantasy speaking. So that's another feather in his cap that maybe people didn't necessarily know about. I know I really didn't.
Right. And you know, this being, you know, Scott Fishbowl season for all the people that are participating, he's the, you know, people that are going quarterback early. He's someone that I might look at later on if I skip like the top guys to maybe go ahead and grab as my QB2 and leagues like that, or even in Superflex. You know, and he can pay, I think, you know, dividends this year with what he has, and you know, he's getting the, you know, second year in the system coaching. So I think, you know, he only played 13 games this year. He didn't even play a full season yet in the NFL. So I think, you know, with development and everything, like you said, like, you know, he outperformed some name guys that a lot of people are high on going into this year at the later part of the year. So if he can, you know, carry over that momentum into this season, I think he'll be doing pretty well.
Yeah, and it's all about value. About value. That's what this is all about, right? So
yeah, I'll take him at QB 25 prices every day.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want him as your quarterback 1, but you want him as your quarterback 2 or your 3, who could potentially turn into quarterback 1. If he's in the top 12, you're going to want to potentially start him every week, unless you have somebody better. And if you know, if that's the case, who knows? Maybe he could be a trade target for you. But that's the name of the game. That's what we're looking at. That's what hot takes kind of stem from, right? Is value, finding value and being able to capitalize on it. So Zach Wilson, yeah, he's in that boat.
Absolutely.
All right, so another one. We're still talking about value here, so I got a big one for you. I'm thinking, first of all, I think that the middle rounds is perfect for wide receiver drafting this year. There are so many good wide receivers in that later middle rounds, in that 6, 7, 8 rounds, that if that's the case, you could probably go a little bit easy on wide receiver in the first couple rounds. Maybe get one stud, right? But then focus on running back or even tight end. If it's a super flex, obviously quarterback is important. But I think that at least one of these wide receivers that I'm going to name for you here is going to finish inside the top 20. And all of them have an ADP of wide receiver 30 or later.
All right.
So you've got, and this is just in any order, you've got Hunter Renfrow.
Okay.
He's the wide receiver 37 right now.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. You've got Christian Kirk.
Okay.
Who's the wide receiver 40. And he's the primary wide receiver target for Jacksonville. He's going to be put into the slot role most likely, or at least he'll play a lot of slot, have a lot of slot snaps. And he really excels well there. And I think that he'll be a great fit for Lawrence. So Christian Kirk in Jacksonville is the wide receiver 40. Rashad Bateman is the wide receiver 32 in ADP. And I have a feeling that's just going to go up. He'll probably be like maybe even up to wide receiver 25 by August.
For me.
Honestly. Yeah. So he's one. Amon-Ra St. Brown is wide receiver 34 in ADP. We've talked about him ad nauseum, right? We've already mentioned him a lot. Just the fact that he's most likely the possession guy in Detroit, and we've seen what he can do. He has a nose for the end zone, strong. Wide receiver 33, speaking of our Jets here that we just mentioned, Elijah Moore. A lot of times you can get the dip on the second wide receiver on the team that's second in line to the top elite wide receiver, right? So people are thinking Garrett Wilson's going to come in, he's going to be a star from the get-go. He might, but Elijah Moore is no pushover. He's also going to get a lot of work, and I think that's what's kind of aiding to that ADP where it is. Two more. Juju Smith-Schuster, the wide receiver 30 currently. And, I mean, shoot, he might be the top wide receiver in Kansas City, most likely. At least that's what he's projected to be.
He should be.
Should be, right? So how is he wide receiver 30? Well, he missed 12 games last year. He had that shoulder injury, so he's kind of out of sight, out of mind from people, I think. Now he's on Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. Most importantly, he's going to be a piece of that offense. And lastly, this is kind of the big shocker one. Wide receiver 43 right now is Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard, in my opinion, is the wide receiver to own in Green Bay. He's the one that has the rapport with Aaron Rodgers. We know Aaron Rodgers turns good receivers into great receivers. We've seen that with Jordy Nelson. We've seen that with James Jones, among other receivers as well, right? So he has that opportunity to do so. He's got that rapport. Christian Watson is, he's good receiver, right? We don't know exactly what we're going to get from him. He's a little bit raw. We know that Aaron Rodgers tends to shy away from rookies a little bit. I don't see Watson being the alpha in that offense. I can see Allen Lazard playing that role. So to get him as your wide receiver 5 in a redraft league as the wide receiver 43, I think is a steal. It might be the best steal of the draft. So one of these 7 wide receivers that I just mentioned, I think will finish in the top 20, and we could have more than one.
All right. So which of those do you think will finish top 20?
All of them. No. Let's see. Bateman has a spot there. Bateman has. I mean, they all have a shot. I sold all of them for you, right?
Did.
Man, if I had to guess,
the best side is what I'm asking.
If I had to guess, I would say probably Juju Smith-Schuster. Man, gosh, I mean, Hunter Renfrow could do it. So could Kirk. So could Bateman. There's a lot of Bateman love in fantasy circles.
I did trade him away, actually, in one of my dynasty leagues.
Did you? Hey, hopefully you got some good value. But Elijah Moore is someone I loved. And then they got Garrett Wilson, right? So there's a little bit of a give and take there. But, I mean, he was solid, man. He was scoring touchdowns. He was very, was getting a lot of volume. Shoot, I don't know, man. If I had to choose 2 that could finish in the top 20,
I'll give you 2.
Renfrow, I don't think not with Devontae Adams. That top 25, I think he can, but man, that's a tough one. I mean, they literally all could. I'm gonna say Smith-Schuster because he's the top guy on the Chiefs, top offense, AFC West. Is a tough division. There's gonna be a lot of points scored in that division. I like Smith-Schuster. Man, I so want to say Amon-Ra St. Brown is my other one because a lot of people. I mean, he's the top guy. He's the top guy on an offense that's improving, and we know that he can score. Oh man, I'm gonna go with him. I'm gonna say him. He and Juju Smith-Schuster is top 20 out of all those 7, but all 7 of them could be in at least the top 30, and if not the top 25.
So your picks are Schuster and St. Brown?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think Renfrow is going to be one of them.
He could. I mean, we can make that argument for every one of them.
He was wide receiver, I think 13 last year, and everyone, I think somewhere around there. I think, and everyone said, and this is kind of the pushback I have with Renfrow, and with Devontae Adams coming there. Obviously, Adams is going to be the number 1 guy. So Renfrow is going to have probably
Renfrow was 10th in PPR, by the way.
10th? Okay, 10th.
Yeah.
Great, even better.
Yeah.
Even better. So that actually helps my case. So I think that I was going to be the unquestioned, wide receiver 1 there. And, Renfrow will probably have less targets, but the quality of his targets will, I think, improve. I think that, all attention should and will go to Adams. I think that, Renfrow and Carr have a great rapport now. And while Darren Waller is, still a really good tight end, I don't know how much he can. I don't know. I think in the pecking order, I think Renfrow has leaped him in terms of receiving targets there. So I think that the kind of players that Adams and Renfrow are, I think mesh well together. I think that there's more than enough targets to go around for both of them to succeed. So I do think that Renfrow won't go as high, obviously, as 10 this year, but I don't see him dropping, at low enough to get to like wide receiver 25 here. I still think he's still a wide receiver, a top 20 wide receiver this year.
He was a penalty away from having a 100,010 season.
Mm-hmm.
That's, that's impressive. That's Hunter Renfrow for you,
the quietest season ever.
Yes. Oh man. Anyway, keep going. What else you got?
Okay, so I don't agree with Allen Lazard. I think that a lot of people are overhyping Lazard just because I know that opportunity-wise he's the number 1 target in Green Bay. I just think based on what he's done in the past and his overall talent, I think like he's the de facto 1, but I don't think he's that for long. In fact, if you want a hot take, I think that Romeo Doubs ends up being the wide receiver 1 in Green Bay.
Whoa, that is super hot, man. That's like lava hot.
Because the Eagles didn't draft. They signed Carson Strong as a drafted free agent. So looking at the Nevada tape, and every time you see Carson strong throw, it's always to Dobbs, and Dobbs is making these ridiculous catches and everything. I think, he's a more complete receiver than Lazard is. And Watson, I'm a really big fan of Watson. I think, the jump in going from North Dakota State to the NFL is warranted, but I think, athletic wise, he's clearly the best receiver there. But it all depends on if he can put it together or not. So I understand the hesitations with him. So for me, I go Renfro, and I agree with. I probably go with Juju as well. I think that people blamed Juju a lot for not being able to step up once Antonio Brown left Pittsburgh. I think that there were some unrealistic expectations for him there. That everyone expected him to just slot right into that AB role and perform any there's very few receivers that are that kind of caliber of talent. Doesn't mean he's a bad receiver. It just means he couldn't perform to those expectations. But I think in Kansas City with Kelsey is going to be the number one option there. So it's not like he has to be the guy. I know they signed a couple of other receivers, but I think for the type of system that Andy Reid likes to run, I think Juju is the perfect fit for that type of offense. He's obviously not ever going to be Tyreek Hill. He's not that type of player. He's not going to have that type of production. But for what he is, I think he'll be really solid. And I think people just never forgave him for everyone drafted him as high as they did and him not performing. I think people have been holding out against him for the past couple of years, and he hasn't been. He's been dealing with a couple of injuries as well and everything like that. But I think that he can definitely turn it around in KC.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think it's possible that any wide receiver on Kansas City finishes outside of the top 20? So, in other words, is there going to be a top 20 wide receiver on the Chiefs and we just don't know who it is? Would you say? Is that fair? Or do you think without a doubt, there's going to be at least one wide receiver in the top 20 for Kansas City?
Do I think it's possible that a wide receiver on Kansas City finishes outside the top 20?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you think that it's possible that no wide receiver could be in the top 20?
I think it's possible. I think that if they go with Kelsey being the main target and then spread the ball around to MVS and Juju and Hardman and them, then I think that they might all have decent seasons, but not good enough to where they can get to that top 20. And also due to the fact that they have so much, competition for that top 20 spot. I mean, there's so many good receivers out there that are in good situations or better situations than any of the receivers in Kansas City. Even with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback, I think that I think it's definitely possible. Is it likely? Probably not. I think one of the guys is going to
someone will fit
come out as the number one receiver there and then get the majority of the targets. But in the realm of possibility, I can see a thing where there's Andy Reid just spreads it out evenly amongst all of them and then them get enough points to reach that threshold.
Yeah, and I think that it's possible if that doesn't happen that we see a down year out of the Chiefs and out of Patrick Mahomes and therefore out of Kelsey. What if it's it's possible that Tyreek Hill was such a vital part of the offense that it really helped Kelsey in getting his targets and receptions as well. Without that, could Kelsey perhaps see a little bit of a downtick in production?
I think so. I think
possible, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's even possible. I think it's likely. I think because of the way that Hill was used in the offense, where you had to pretty much keep two safeties back at all times, or you'll get destroyed. The fact that now there isn't really anyone of that caliber of deep threat. I know MBS is a deeper threat, but obviously he's not in Hill's class as a receiver. I think that it's going to be interesting to see how Kelsey deals with being the number one focal point of defensive game planning on a week-to-week basis. I think obviously he's still an elite tight end and he's still going to get his catches and everything, but I think he won't do as good as people are maybe. I think people are expecting him to just be Travis Kelce and be that automatic top tight end, and I see a situation where he isn't that this year. I think that it'll be interesting to see how Andy Reid develops the offense, because he basically has to completely change it now without Hill there. So I can see that where Kelsey drops out of the top 3, top 4 tight ends this year. there's definitely a possibility of it.
Would you take the field then over Kelsey in terms of who finishes in the top one?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
I think a lot of people would.
I'd probably take. I think he probably drops out of the top 3. Honestly, I can see him dropping out of the top 3.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe we're over speculating, but I mean, in the NFL,
we're completely wrong.
We know how things can change season to season, year to year.
Right.
That's just how the NFL works. I mean, who really saw Cooper Kupp as the absolute top wide receiver one? It kind of reminds me a little bit of that season that Adam Thielen had. Maybe what was it, like 3-4 years ago, where he was like the top receiver and out of nowhere,
right?
Kind of like that. But I mean, who saw that coming?
Nobody.
I mean, I saw him as a good value, but I didn't see him as the top wide receiver.
No. Anyone in the entire world that says they saw that kind of season come out of Cup is a liar. Because if they did, then they would have drafted him like first overall, honestly. Right. And he wasn't getting drafted until like the 5th round.
It kind of makes me wonder. You've got Matthew Stafford going from Detroit to the Rams, new offense, new players. Here's an opportunity for him to shine. Stafford shined, and the receiver shined as well. We could see that in Denver, right? With Russell Wilson and either Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy. Either one of those two. Would you be completely and ultimately surprised if they finished in the top 5?
No. I think, Sutton more than Jeudy. I actually also like KJ Hamler there as well. But, you make a great point. And I think, people kind of underrate the fantasy aspect of what Stafford did, I think, in Detroit a little bit. He obviously he had, Calvin Johnson, which helps any quarterback be good, but he was putting up some really good seasons in Detroit, and just because they were losing a lot, no one seemed to, give him the kind of credit he deserved in fantasy football. Obviously in the NFL, he was losing lots, but going to the Rams with a system that actually, supported him and no, I don't think. I think that Kupp was going to have a good year, but no one he almost had the best wide receiver season in the history of the NFL. Yeah. So it's just, I just think it's interesting. Even now in some like redraft leagues and everything, how low Stafford is going in some places. Again, it just seems crazy to me that he proved it last year, but he's still going. As wide receiver, as quarterback, 12, he's barely on the cusp of QB1 in terms of ADP. I'm like, what are we doing here? What does he have to what does he have to prove? It's just fascinating to me how some QBs have proven stuff, and someone like Kirk Cousins too. It's just I guess they're boring or something. They just produce. Yeah, they produce good seasons, but no one ever seems to really give them that kind of credit.
Yep, I just have a sneaky suspicion that Russell Wilson is just going to flat out cook in Denver. And if he does, there's going to be those who take advantage of that, right? Sutton, Jeudy, their tight end, Alberto, Javonte Williams, right? I mean, they've got the horses to produce.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could freaking happen. I'm telling you. Anyway, all right. So, do you have a hot take that you want to share?
Yeah.
That one took a long time, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun discussion. So kind of, tying into what we've been discussing, the guy throwing Hunter Renfrow the ball, I think Derek Carr finishes. I was originally going to go with finishes as a top 7 QB, but forget it. I'm going to go top 5 QB. This year. I think that, last year he set career highs in completions, passing yards. He was still low on touchdowns, so I expect positive touchdown regression from him. He only threw 23 last year. I think, obviously, with the addition of Devonta Adams helps tremendously. It doesn't really need to be said. His completion percentage is almost 70% over the past 4 seasons, so he's been consistent. I think, with a healthy Darren Waller and Renfro still there, I can see, and everyone's going to say, he doesn't run. And, rushing quarterbacks, obviously, hold those top spots more times than not. But if you go through, the list of quarterbacks that are ahead of him, I mean, I can see him doing better than Murray. I can see him doing better than Tannehill. He's Cousins.
Rodgers. Do you see him doing better than Aaron Rodgers?
I do, actually.
Okay.
I do better than the Rodgers. Let's see who else.
Stafford.
I think Stafford still does better.
Okay.
I think that the system that Stafford's in, the fact that they got Allen Robinson, I think Stafford still does a little better.
Wilson, Prescott.
He does better than Prescott. I think that, and this is going to be me being an Eagles hater because I'm an Eagles fan, but I think that the fact that Amari Cooper isn't there anymore is going to be much more of a problem than people think it's going to be. I think that I need to see how CeeDee Lamb does as the focus of everyone's attention before, I'm comfortable with trusting Dak this year as a QB. Not to say he'll be bad, but I just don't think he's going to be as good as people are making him and drafting him out to be. So I think the top five probably be like Allen, I think Herbert, Stafford.
You think Stafford's top 5?
Yeah, I thought he was top 5 last year too.
What about Hurts? I know you're big on Hurts. Do you think Hurts is going to be a top 5?
I see. It's tough. I think it's either Hurts or Burrow. I think I'll probably lean Hurts.
Hurts definitely has the rushing rather than Burrow.
Yeah, it's like the Hurts, Burrow, like Carr, like in the 4 to 6 range. I think you can like interchange, and that'll be. I'm fine with that. But those are like my top 6-ish guys for this year. I think that Hurts, like you said, has that rushing ability, and adding AJ Brown to that offense and being the team's most offensive system for the first time since high school or whatever. I think that definitely helps him as well.
So I like the thought of Derek Carr moving up the ranks. I'm not sure I'm ready to put him top 5 because there's a lot of quarterbacks in the top 5. And in order to be in the top 5, you almost have to be a dual threat type of guy. And Carr's not that way. I'm looking at what he did last year. Yeah, you mentioned 23 touchdowns. He had 8 games, 8 out of the 17, where he had 2 touchdown passes or more. That's not bad. That's pretty good. That's solid. I mean, that's what he is. He's a solid, good, average quarterback, right? He finished 12th, which is right at the tail end of that quarterback 1 ranking, right? So the addition of Devontae Adams, the health of Darren Waller, the emergence of Hunter Renfrow, that's a strong offense. And, we already talked before about the AFC West being a shootout with points galore in that division. I can see that being the case where Derek Carr outperforms his ADP, but I'm not sure I'm ready to put him at quarterback 5. Like quarterback 1, yes. Like in the top 12, yes. Quarterback 10, can he be in the top 10? Yeah, I think he can. 8, maybe, right? 6. I'm not ready to put him, into that top 5 because I think that belongs with the guys who run a lot or the ones who have 30, 35 touchdown passes and almost 5,000 yards, if not more.
Right.
The Josh Allens, the Mahomes, the Herberts.
Right. So let me play some either or game.
Okay.
So would you rather have? Give me 1 second. All right. Would you rather have Carr or Lamar Jackson?
That's a good question, and a lot of people would say Lamar Jackson, and I would too. I would. I probably would go with Lamar Jackson simply because of the running ability, the fact that he can pass, he has an above average arm. I like Jackson. I'm a little bit worried about his injury history with his ankle, especially if that becomes an issue eventually, slowing him down a little bit. But I would put Jackson ahead of Carr, but Carr is getting into that territory. He really is. And we haven't seen it yet, but he has the potential to. And so I'm kind of going with the incumbent quarterback who's done it before.
Right.
As opposed to the quarterback who has the potential to do it. That's why I lean Jackson, but I am okay with Carr
even with the loss of
conversation.
Hollywood?
What?
Even with the loss of Hollywood?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I'm not worried about him. I think they're going to pick up maybe like a Julio Jones or like a Will Fuller, some sort of veteran that's going to come in because Bateman and Mark Andrews can't do it all, and Devin Duvernay isn't the answer.
He's not.
But I also think that they're going to run the ball a lot. But at the same time, they have running backs who are coming off of big, major, serious injuries. So there's got to be some give and take there. And I know they don't want Jackson running, 10, 11 times a game. They don't. So, so they need someone to come in. So I think there is going to be a signing, maybe even pretty soon in Baltimore as far as a wide receiver veteran.
We'll trade you Jalen Reagor for free.
Where do I sign, right?
Right. Okay, so Derek Carr or Tannehill?
Carr. That's an easy one for me.
Right. Okay. Me too. Carr or Cousins?
I'm going to say Cousins because, one, he's got Justin Jefferson already on his team, Adam Thielen, who we know what he can do, two strong receivers, a good running back in Dalvin Cook, and Cousins he has that perennial 30 touchdown type of arm, and like Carr, he doesn't really run as much. So I'd rather take Cousins, the offense and the arm, and what we've seen him do before, slightly over Carr, but I think both of them could finish really close to each other this season.
Okay. Carr or Russell Wilson?
Wilson.
All right. Carr or Kyler Murray?
I don't like Kyler Murray. I really don't. I mean, I can't even really pinpoint why, but keep in mind, I mean, he was like the quarterback 17 last year after week 10. Of course he hurt his ankle. I'm not big on Marquise Brown. I know that they're buddies from college, but Marquise Brown struggles with press coverage. He's a deep threat really only. I know he had 146 targets last year, but I don't see that translating over into Arizona. I think once Hopkins comes back, that Marquise Brown will sort of take a little bit of a back seat. Man, I don't know. I would probably take Murray over Carr just because of his track record and his pedigree. What? Say that again?
I said, I hate Murray. I'll take Murray over Carr.
I know, right? But because I'm kind of leaning towards the math here.
Right.
And his running ability and just the fact that alone puts him in the conversation of a top 6 quarterback. Mm-hmm. Yes. And maybe the reason why he was so bad last year was due to his ankle injury. And of course, the Cardinals struggled too, winning like what 2 games out of their last 7, something like that, right?
Like that. Yeah, it was bad. All right, let's do a couple more. Okay. So Carr or Prescott?
I think I'd take Dak here. I think I'd take Dak. Just looking at what he's done in the past. I'm looking at what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games when he had 3 touchdowns or more. Mm-hmm. 9. That's a lot. Granted, he doesn't have Amari Cooper anymore, so that's a little bit of a concern. I think someone's going to have to step up between Gallup, between James Washington, between Jalen, what's his name? Tolbert, thank you. And of course, CeeDee Lamb and Darren Schultz. There's going to be
Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, I always call him Darren. Dalton Schultz. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And for pointing that out. He's the guy. He's the I've been there before guy, and I know what he's capable of. And Carr is, like I said, Carr is still that guy with potential who has an opportunity to surpass him. So I'm going to take the incumbent quarterback here in terms of rankings and take Dak.
Okay, so one more. Carr or Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, man, that's a good one. Because I think Rodgers could struggle this year. I think he could. We've seen him struggle in the past before, and then he turns it on eventually. And he has like a good, strong, like last 5 games to salvage his season. Boy, you know what? I'm going to do it. I think Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr over Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I'll say it right now. Carr finishes 8th, Rodgers finishes 9th or something, right? It's going to be close like that.
Yeah. No, but I think, that's solid reasoning I might disagree on a couple of them, but the reasoning is sound. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of talk about where he'll end up. So this just proves that we don't know. Like we don't know where he has such a good range of outcomes between QB 12 and above.
It's interesting if you look at Rodgers. Here's a guy who has talent, and now his complementary talent is gone. Not necessarily gone, but reduced, right? No, and then you've got Derek Carr, who has talent, but now he's getting the complementary pieces.
Mm-hmm. He's getting Aaron Rodgers talent.
He's getting Aaron Rodgers talent, or helpful talent, or
Yeah.
So which one wins out? The average quarterback who gets better due to complementary receivers being better, or the quarterback who's great who gets worse due to his complementary receivers being, a reduction in what they were in the previous year.
This year, which one prevails?
Honestly. Yeah. So I'm going to take Carr. I think Carr is I agree with you. I don't say top 5, top 10 though. I think it can happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, that will do it for this edition of Everyday's Draft Day Hot Takes and Pancakes. We had some awesome discussion. We went kind of off the rails a little, but that's the beauty of hot takes. We get to explain our reasoning and see what each other thinks. So, thanks for joining, Jeff.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
I don't know. Shoot, I wonder what hot take Steph would have come up with. I would curious.
Probably amazing ones because that's Steph's lifestyle is just hot takes. All right, well, so that'll do it for us today, and we hope everyone has a great weekend. Enjoy.